When I found out my sister was getting married and I wasn't invited, I quietly vanished to Iceland. While I embraced the silence and snow, her wedding erupted in betrayal, scandal, and tears. I didn't return to fix it. I let them feel what it's like to notice someone only after they're gone. I wasn't on the guest list for my sister's wedding. I found out while balancing a flimsy paper plate of macaroni salad, standing between the lemonade dispenser and a cooler filled with sweating cans of beer. It was mid-June, hot enough that the plastic forks drooped under the weight of potato salad. Someone had just fired up a Tracy Lawrence playlist, and a toddler was wailing near the inflatable bounce house. That's when my cousin Kara strolled over from the grill, brushing hair out of her face with one hand and holding a hot dog in the other. "So," she chirped brightly, "are you flying in for Bella's big day or just driving?" I blinked. "Big day?" She laughed, assuming I was teasing. "The wedding, silly. She's finally tying the knot with that guy. What's his name? Gavin? The one with the hair gel." I smiled like I knew exactly who and what she meant. "Oh, right. Yeah." Then I made a quick excuse to check on the deviled eggs, which was code for sitting in my car with the AC blasting, trying to breathe through the sudden, impossible quiet in my chest. Bella was my younger sister. I practically helped raise her after our father passed away. I was the one who held her hair back during her first college hangover, sent her rent money more times than I could count, and mailed her a weighted blanket when her anxiety first bloomed into panic attacks. I stayed on the phone with her through sleepless nights, including the one when she suspected Gavin was cheating. And now she was marrying him, with flowers and a venue, and apparently a carefully curated guest list, one that didn't include me. I stayed in the car for 10 minutes, trying to name the feeling in my chest. Hurt? Angry? Tired? The answer was yes. From the driver's seat, I could see people gathering around the cake table inside. Someone had just sliced the strawberry sheet cake. Through the window, Kara was talking to my mom, who wore her signature soft blue dress and that same effortless calm she always did, like everything in the world was unfolding just the way it should. I looked at my plate. The macaroni salad was slick with heat, almost sweating. They'd planned an entire wedding and I'd been the only one kept in the dark. And somehow, I was also the only one who looked surprised. It took me 2 full days before I picked up the phone to call my mother. Not because I needed to calm down, I wasn't seething. I wasn't even hoping for an apology. I think I just needed to hear it confirmed plainly that they'd all decided to leave me out. She answered on the second ring. "Hi, sweetheart," she said in that brisk but warm tone she reserved for grocery clerks and Sunday school volunteers. I could almost picture her in the kitchen, phone propped between her cheek and shoulder, wiping down a counter with a dish towel. "Hey," I said, trying to keep my voice even. "Quick question, is Bella getting married?" There was a pause, then a soft exhale. A refrigerator door clicked shut. "Well, yes, next month actually. We didn't know if your schedule was flexible," she added casually. "I didn't know it was happening." She chuckled, light and dismissive. "Oh, Dana, don't be dramatic." There it was again, dramatic. The same word she used when I cried at Dad's funeral and she told me to pull it together. The same one she chose when I called her sobbing after losing my job 5 years ago. "Don't catastrophize, sweetheart. You always bounce back." I let the silence speak for me. "She wanted something small," my mother continued. "Just close family." "I am close family," she sighed. "Yes, but you're always traveling. These things get complicated." Gavin's family had a lot of say in the guest list. "Limited seats, you know?" No, I didn't know, but I understood enough not to say so. "You're not upset, are you?" I paused. "I'm not sure what I am." The silence that followed felt denser, weighted. And then, almost as an afterthought, she added, "We just thought this would be simpler. Less stress for everyone, simpler. Not forgotten, not overlooked. Just removed." Because I was the easy one to leave out. I told her I had work to get back to even though I wasn't working that day. "All right, sweetheart," she said before hanging up. I stared at the screen after the call ended, the truth setting in like sediment. I opened my calendar, scrolled to the weekend in question. No appointment, no invitation, no dress picked out. I didn't post anything on social media. I didn't call Bella to demand an answer or write a long emotional message that would probably be left unread. Instead, I booked a ticket to Iceland. I didn't tell a soul, not my coworkers, not my neighbor who usually collected my packages, not even my best friend Erin, who had seen me through to heartbreaks, a layoff, and knew how I took my coffee without asking. I just disconnected, quietly, neatly. That Friday, I submitted a vacation request to HR, packed a carry-on, and left a single sticky note on my fridge. Gone. Don't wait up. The flight from Boston to Reykjavik was hushed, the kind of quiet that feels more intentional than accidental. I didn't watch a movie. I didn't scroll through anything. I sat still and stared at the flight map on the seatback screen, watching the thin white arc bend across the curve of Greenland like a delicate scar. When the plane landed, it was early morning and everything looked muted gray sky, stone roads, steam curling up from hidden geothermal pools. I'd rented a small cabin carved into a hillside of volcanic rock. It was modest, moss-covered, and utterly still. The lake outside appeared frozen even though it wasn't. In the mornings, the windows fogged from the inside. The shower had a faint sulfuric scent. I loved it immediately. For the first 24 hours, I didn't touch my phone. On the second day, I ventured out. There was a trail that curved gently toward the edge of the lagoon, ending at a weather-worn bench half buried in snow. I sat there for what must have been an hour, until my fingers were too numb to move. I took a photo not staged, not smiling, just me wrapped in a wool coat beside a still lake under a washed-out sky. No caption, no tag. I posted it to my Instagram story. 10 minutes later, the seen by list lit up. Bella, Kara, my mother. No messages followed, none expected. That wasn't the point. The point was that they saw me not at the bridal shower, not at the rehearsal brunch, not at any of the events I was never told about. But here, in this country of glaciers and fog, I had become briefly visible. The next day, I posted nothing. I simply lived. I drank black coffee from a chipped ceramic mug. I watched fog pull over the lake like a curtain. I wrote in a notebook not poetry, just lists. Things I didn't have to do here. No small talk. No pretending. No RSVP. No gift registry. Just me and the sound of wind pushing against the edges of ice. I knew the wedding was coming that weekend. No one had told me the date outright, but I pieced it together the way we usually discover things our families hope we don't, through social media breadcrumbs. A boomerang on Kara's story showing champagne glasses clinking. A tagged boutique hotel 2 hours outside Albany. A cryptic caption, "Today's the day." It was enough. That Saturday morning in Iceland was painted in silver and quiet. I sat wrapped in a thick blanket by the window, watching the slow march of light crawl across the lake. No wedding playlist, no laughter echoing from behind makeup mirrors, no speeches or satin heels clicking on tile. Just snow, steam, silence. I made oatmeal. I didn't check my phone. By mid-afternoon, the wedding had probably begun. Maybe Bella was walking down the aisle in some lace gown she found on Etsy. Maybe our mother was dabbing tears at the exact expected moment. Soft lighting, pastel flowers, filtered smiles. And somewhere in those photos, there would be one chair that didn't belong to me but used to. They would have filled the spot or reshuffled the seating, of course. But I'd know where I was meant to be. And I wasn't. That evening, I posted another image. My hand wrapped around a ceramic mug, lifted in front of the frozen lake. The sky behind it was lavender, almost surreal. One fingernail had chipped. No filter, no pose, no caption. The view list swelled again. Bella, my mother, a couple of friends of hers I hadn't spoken to in years. Again, no one reached out. But this time, something was different. The silence shifted. It wasn't absence anymore, it was deliberate. Presence withheld. I could imagine them between dances or during dessert, scrolling idly, seeing the post and pausing, wondering if it meant something. It did. It meant I knew. It meant I was watching not out of bitterness or cruelty, but because I had mattered once. And now, I didn't. Not enough to be invited, just enough to be an afterthought, a ghost in the margin of the story they were telling. I didn't post again for today's. Let them feel that gap. Let them try to make sense of it. On the third morning after the wedding, I was awakened by my phone buzzing on the wooden nightstand. It was early, the kind of gray dawn that erases shadows. My first thought was that someone had died, but the names lighting up the screen told another story. Erin, Aunt Sandra, my mother, then Bella's college roommate, and finally Julia, the one person who always told me the truth. Her message was simple. No hi, no buffer. Just, you need to see this. There was a TikTok link. I hovered for a few seconds, then tapped. The video didn't start with music or flowers. It opened in chaos. People shouting, a bouquet flying through the air like a weapon, a bridesmaid's voice screaming not with joy, but betrayal. Her face red, voice breaking. You were my best friend, Bella, maid of honor, and you were screwing him the entire time. It was Rachel, Bella's closest friend, the same one who organized the bachelorette trip, the same one, it turned out, who had planned on marrying Gavin herself. Gasps, shuffling, chairs scraped, someone knocked over a centerpiece. You could hear glass breaking off screen. The camera swung and caught Bella, face streaked with tears, her hands clenched, mascara smeared like bruises. She was yelling something, but the audio blurred. Then Gavin appeared, caught between the two women like a deer in headlights. He said something unheard, irrelevant. The damage was done. A voice off camera whispered, "That's the maid of honor." Guests were grabbing coats, hurrying toward exits. One woman was still clutching a napkin. The video cut with Bella sinking to the floor. I watched it again, then set the phone face down and stared at the ceiling's wooden beams. The structure didn't shake, neither did I. The buzz started again. More texts, voicemails, missed calls, but now they carried urgency. By noon, I had a voicemail from my mother. Her voice trembled like bad reception. She said Bella wasn't eating, that she hadn't left her room, that the family was so embarrassed, that people were talking. She didn't say, "You were right." She didn't ask if I was okay. She just said, "We don't know what to do without you." I stood by the window, bare feet on cold wood, watching the wind scatter tiny ripples across the lake. A new message arrived. This one from Rachel. "I'm sorry you weren't there. You probably would have stopped me." But she was wrong. I wouldn't have stopped her. I would have stood there too, let the truth in, just like I had. By early afternoon, the tone of the messages changed. No longer curt or annoyed, they took on a kind of pleading. The voicemails from my mother came one after another, 6 of them in under 3 hours. Her voice cracked in places it never used to. By the third message, she was crying, or trying to. "Dana," she said, whispering my name like a prayer. "Bella isn't doing well. She hasn't eaten since Saturday. We don't know what to say to her. She keeps asking for you. Please, we need you home. You've always been the strong one, the one who keeps everyone together." That line again. The strong one. The one who carries, holds, steadies, who doesn't get to ask for help. I didn't respond. Instead, I boiled water, made a cup of mint tea, and stepped outside. The steam curled around my face as the wind sliced through my sleeves. Above me, the Icelandic sky stretched low and wide, a kind of silence that made sound itself feel optional. Another message appeared, this time from Bella. "No call, just a text. I know I hurt you. I didn't think it would matter this much. I thought you didn't want to be part of things anymore. Please, Dana, I need you. I don't know who else to call." I stared at the screen, not because I didn't believe her, but because it was the first honest sentence she'd sent me in years. And yet it wasn't enough. Not after everything. Not after letting me fade from every family photo without even asking if I was still standing there. They didn't miss me. They missed the version of me that gave, soothed, absorbed. They missed the scaffolding, not the person. But I wasn't made of steel anymore. I had hardened into something colder, something still, something like glacier. It was close to midnight when the phone rang again. I answered this time not out of forgiveness, not because I was ready, but because I didn't want the silence to say everything for me. Dana, my mother's voice cracked like old radio static. You there? I didn't speak. She waited, then filled the space, the way she always did, with explanations disguised as concern. She's not okay, she said, quiet now. Bella, I mean, she won't come downstairs. She asks every morning if you've written back. In the background, I could hear the gentle clink of a spoon against porcelain. Probably that same blue teacup she always used when she wanted to seem softer. I just wish you were here, she added. I looked out my window. The lake had turned to glass. The air outside was so still it felt like time had paused. The silence didn't hurt anymore. It didn't soothe either. It just was. I said finally. For years, there was a pause. Not defensive, not flustered, just stunned. I didn't know you felt that way, she said, her voice thinner now. You never said anything. No one asked. Another pause. Then she breathed not a sigh, but something closer to surrender. The sound of realizing there's no old script left that still fits. I'm sorry, she said at last, but it came out like a question. I didn't answer. For once, she didn't try to fix it. There were no excuses, no rewrites, just her breath and the slow chime of a clock in some kitchen I no longer lived in. Are you coming home? She asked softly. I glanced around my cabin. The wooden floors, the thick wool blanket draped over the chair, the faint smell of cedar. It wasn't elaborate, it wasn't impressive, but it was mine. No, I said gently. I think I'm finally home. We didn't say goodbye. We just let the call fade like a tired wave. I sat in the dark for a while, holding my mug, letting the stillness wrap around me. There was no victory in this, only clarity. No closure, just room. And for the first time in years, I didn't feel invisible. I just felt real. The next morning, I rose early. The sky was pearl gray and endless. I wrapped myself in a heavy sweater and stepped barefoot onto the back deck. The lake below looked like a mirror, still, cold, undemanding. I made tea, wrote a few thoughts in my journal, nothing elegant. Just a list of things I didn't owe anymore. Then I pulled out a thick piece of stationery I'd packed months ago and never used. I wrote one letter. Simple, brief, no blame, no bullets. Just this. I hope you find peace. I hope you tell the truth. I hope next time the invitation comes before the apology. Dana. I signed it with my full name. No return address. That afternoon, I walked into town and dropped the letter in a red postbox outside a bakery that smelled like cardamom and smoke. The man behind the counter nodded as I passed. Cold day, he said. I smiled. Not as cold as yesterday. On the way back to the cabin, I paused at the lagoon. A lone bench faced the water. I sat for a while, sipping coffee from a paper cup, watching the vapor rise and vanish. My phone stayed tucked in my pocket. Later that evening, I posted one last photo. A single empty wooden chair. Snow framed the legs. Beyond it, the lake, still and undisturbed. No caption, but I knew they'd see it. Not because they followed me closely, but because people always notice what's missing when things get quiet enough. That night, I didn't check messages. I didn't scroll. I didn't wonder what they were whispering back home. I made soup, lit a candle, pulled a blanket over my legs and read the same paragraph 3 times, not because I was distracted, but because I finally had no reason to rush. And